Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our North County Education Roundtable. I'm Carl Morgan. I'm the CEO of the San Diego North Economic Development Council, and on behalf of our board of directors and staff, welcome to this event. Before I begin, I want to thank our sponsors, Wells Fargo Bank, and also the San Diego Business Journal. They've been really great partners, and we appreciate their support. I'd also like to thank Miracosta College for this beautiful venue and providing that for us to have this stimulating conversation about education and matching our workforce and skill sets. I'd also like to share a little bit about our organization and who we are and what we do, just to kind of give you some context, and then I'll segue into this morning's conversation. San Diego North EDC is a dynamic group comprised of private and public sectors working together. We're a 501c3 economic development corporation that we just got in place about a month ago, and we're also a 501c6. We are publicly and privately funded, primarily from the private sector, and we're really here to grow North County and spotlight the assets and attributes of North County. Our focus is doing economic development, business retention expansion, working with our community partners, the cities, the economic development professionals, and the commercial real estate brokers. And it's really about letting everyone know outside of San Diego the wonderful assets and attributes that we have and the wonderful business clusters that we have in North County. This is the community territory that we serve. We're the 56 North, so there are 9 cities and 17 unincorporated communities. It's a very large and diverse area. And these are our investors in our organization, and I want to take a moment to thank all of them. It is with and through them and their investment and support that we're able to do what we do as an organization, and we cannot ever thank them enough for that. These are our key industry clusters in North County. We've got 7 key industry clusters, and you can see the size of those by the bubbles that are on the screen. And this is the industry clusters by category, showing the employment numbers, connected tourism and agriculture being the largest, and then you can see the employment numbers going down and the average earnings per job. Very key to the conversation that we're going to have today. And here's some interesting facts about North County, and I think that when you look at North County and the amount of population here, 1.13 million people, 443,000 jobs, 35% of the population of the county of San Diego, and you spotlight that with or contrast it with the city of San Diego being 1.3 million, we've got a lot of wonderful things going on up here. 38% of our population has a bachelor's degree or higher, and almost 1 in 5 have an annual household income of $150,000 or greater. And biotech, biomedical has grown 25% in North San Diego County from 2007 to 2013. Some pretty big numbers. And now I'd like to just kind of touch upon the purpose of today's conversation. And we believe that by focusing on our industry clusters, it helps us fully understand the challenges and opportunities facing our North County economy. And the more we know about those industry clusters and the more we drill down into those, the better we can predict the world of work, the better that we can be positioned to embrace change and move forward in the 21st century. Our organization is engaging our education and business community to identify the skill gaps and match that educational curriculum to the needs of our employers. And that's really the purpose of today's conversation. It's to begin a dialogue, to start talking about that, and then we're going to reach out and engage each of the top companies in each of those industry clusters I showed you, and really start working collaboratively to connect our job seekers with the world of work around. And with that, I'd just like to kind of segue into and introduce Kenny Goldberg. Kenny Goldberg covers health for KPBS News. Kenny reports on a wide range of health topics and has reported on HIV and AIDS in South Africa, Central America, and Mexico. His radio and television work was garnered 3 Golden Mike Awards, Best in Show from the Society of Professional Journalists, and numerous other honors. He has also been awarded fellowship from the New York Times Foundation and the National Press Foundation. In addition to his work for KPBS, Kenny is a frequent contributor to the California Report, heard on public radio stations throughout California. A Seattle native, Kenny graduated from the University of Washington and began his broadcasting career in the news departments of KOGO and KSDO in San Diego. In his spare time, Kenny loves to practice Tai Chi, hike, and travel with his wife, Angela. And if you would please join me in a welcome. It's all yours, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning. I was telling one of my colleagues the other day that I was coming to this event, and they said, well, you know, the person that moderates, they always get some San Diego bigwig or some super accomplished type, and I said, well, I'm doing it this year. And the guy said, no, that's more like it. But anyway, hey, thanks so much for coming today. We've got a very distinguished panel, and let's get right to it, shall we? I'd like to introduce them for you. From Provost of National University, we have Deborah Bean. Wilma Owens is the Dean of Career and Technical Extended Education at Palomar College. Dr. Al Tacone is the Dean and Career and Technical Education, Maricosta College. Dr. Graham Obram is a Provost and VP of Academic Affairs at Cal State San Marcos. Dr. Devin Vodishka is the Superintendent of Vista Unified, and Josh Williams is President of the BW Research Partnership. So I'd like to invite our panelists to take your seats there, and we'll get things going. Now, we have some pre-prepared questions for our panelists. We'll also try to keep the conversation sort of free-flowing as we go this morning. And if we have enough time, we'd love to incorporate some questions from the audience. And we'll see what we can get to a little bit later. I'd like to invite our panelists to try to keep your remarks to 1 or 2 minutes. And that way we'll give everybody a chance to weigh in. Deborah Bean, let's start with you. Some say the central objective of higher education should be preparing students for work. What's your view on that?
Well, I do think we at National University serve adult students, and they are very interested in finding their place in society and in terms of getting a career or moving ahead in that career. So it's very important, and one reason I appreciate what we're doing today is that we connect the learning that we provide with them can actually benefit the community and find them jobs. At the same time, throughout a lifetime and a career, the world is changing so quickly. It is really key that our students also have critical thinking skills. They have an ability to analyze situations so they can help their employers, but also when the world changes, they have ways in which they can pivot, can understand how to go forward, and they're committed to lifelong learning. So whether through additional study at an institution and a master's degree or a certificate, they can continue to learn and continue to be productive contributors. So I think it needs to be a balance, not just career skills, but also those critical thinking and analysis skills that helps them as they go forward and also helps those that their employers as well.
Al Tacone, what do you think about that?
Well, I concur, but I like to think, and I'm trying through various means as a community college administrator to start that thinking before a student gets to higher education, quote unquote, meaning a college. They should be, and we should be working with our partners in K through 12 to get students thinking about that before they get to higher education. I was speaking to some folks before our panel discussion today about that, and when we talk to students about why they pick a career, and I still teach one accounting course a semester, and I ask, why did you pick accounting? And they really never have a good answer other than I think it'd be okay and I can make a lot of money at it. But in working with my colleagues at the local high schools and with the Department of Ed, we've talked about that and have even pursued grants where we can incorporate career exploration in the K through 12, and particularly the high schools, because really by the time they get to us, there should be some thought about what they're doing with the rest of their lives and not just preparing for higher education. At least my thinking is they're preparing for higher education, but not necessarily preparing for a career. The higher education should be a conduit to that. And we are working on that. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes we make greater inroads in some years or some semesters than others. But at least that's my thinking on it. We need to do a much better job connecting with our K-12 partners to ensuring that happens.
Wilma Owens, in your view, is preparing students for work, for a career, is that your golden objective?
I think education should prepare students for life, whatever career or whatever life you want to live. I remember a quote that I read from W.E.B. Du Bois, who said, you can't send a man to college to make him a bricklayer, but you can send a bricklayer to college to make him a man. So I think higher education should prepare people for life. And in this global economy, higher education is the backbone of our economy. So we need citizens to contribute, and without education, they can't.
Graham Oberum, what's your view on that? Is preparing students for work the absolute be-all and end-all of what you do at Cal State San Marcos?
Well, be all and end all is a strong way to put it, I think. And I definitely agree with the colleagues to my right who have spoken already. Duke University did a study a few years ago that showed that 43% of their graduates would change careers in the first 5 years after college. So I see it as a little dangerous to think in terms of preparing people very specifically and in a lot of detail for any one particular job. It's important that students do follow their interests and that we give them some background and some basic fundamental skills and the fundamental training in particular areas. But as my colleagues have said, we really see this as preparing students for lifelong learning. It's the critical thinking skills, the ability to solve problems analytically, qualitatively too, the ability to communicate. We see these as the most important skills that we give our students, because with things like this, the awareness of the global community that we now live in, sensitivity to the cultural and other kinds of diversity that's in the workplace, and giving them the management and leadership skills to use these basic lifelong learning skills, they will be successful in any career. That said, we do try to align our curriculum and the areas where we offer programs with the needs of the region, so that we have people who go out from the university well prepared to get involved in a particular industry or a particular job and learn what it takes to really do that. And sometimes, as I think one of my colleagues mentioned, they may come back and do some kind of additional certification that's specific to that. But no, I wouldn't say specific job-related training is our top priority.
Josh Williams, where do you come down on this whole equation?
So I'm going to disagree. No, not really. I think at the end of the day, I think the academic foundation should provide one thing, and I'm going to keep it very simple: the ability to learn. Employers are really focused on, we want to kind of develop our technical skills, but the problem is if you don't have the quantitative reasoning, if you don't have strong written and communication skills, if you don't have that ability to learn and take on those new technical skills, it doesn't hold. So I would say fundamentally, education on that academic foundation should really provide a really solid ability to learn new technical skills and workplace skills in a quick, effective manner, because we heard it before, lifelong learning. Your careers will change. And it'll change quicker and faster 10 years from now than they did 10 years ago, and that will likely continue to move. So without that foundation and that ability to learn, the training for the next job is just not going to do it, because that next job may last a year, may last 2 years, maybe it'll last really long and it'll be 3 or 4 years. But it's not like it was 40 years ago that you're going to have a career for a good chunk of your life.
Dem Vodishka, you're preparing these students as they get into go to college or just enter the workplace. I mean, you've got sort of a unique perspective here. How do you see the whole thing?
Well, first of all, it's great to be at this side of the sequence because there have been so many great comments already. But both my parents were career technical educators. My mom was an ROP teacher and my dad taught at a community college. And so I was raised in an environment that really promoted career readiness, and I think that's an important role in education. But it's interesting that when we really talk to employers, and we had a great forum that Brett from our Vista Chamber of Commerce helped us organize, and we asked them what are the skills they really want to see from students, they tend to be things like adaptability, the ability to learn, the ability to take ownership, and most of those are broader than some of the specific technical requirements of a particular field. So in our district, our mission statement focuses on having students solve real-world problems, and we believe that by having students engage in the complexities of those real-world problems, that will help prepare them for many opportunities later in life. And the connections, though, for us with higher education, with employers, also help us to make adjustments as we go. And I do like the idea of preparing our students for immediate opportunities in addition to those long-term potential areas where they may also flourish.
Well, thank you. Let's shift gears just for a moment. You brought up an interesting point. I want to segue onto that. Deborah Bean, are there some industries or technologies that your school incorporates into the curriculum or courses?
Well, we have 6 schools. Our largest school is a school of education, and we spend a lot of time both in the national conversation, working with other institutions, and really assuring that we're going to prepare teachers to teach the students of the future. But we also look at some other new emerging industries. So one of our fastest growing degrees is our new Masters of Science in Cybersecurity. And so we're really proud that that's nationally recognized center in cybersecurity, and certainly in this community with all of our military students and veterans, it's a very popular place for them to continue their studies in that arena. So we look to manage that going forward. And also we see that's a growing need across the nation. So that's one example of how we look at new technologies.
Al Tacone, does your school incorporate particular businesses or technologies into your curriculum? Talk about that a little bit.
We do, and being a community college, we're a little bit different in terms of curriculum development in that we're actually mandated to work with advisory boards who are local business partners that we have who serve to advise our faculty on curriculum development. So we do meet with our advisory boards for all of our programs at least once per year. Some are more because sometimes licensing requires more. And they work with us on curriculum development that includes both the skills, the technical skills, and also those areas that have been mentioned here this morning as well, because we hear the same thing from our advisory board. Send us people who will be able to work on time, who can communicate well, work in teams, write well, etc. We used to call those soft skills. I don't really like that term necessarily. To me, they're essential skills. And so those are the things that we have worked, and I think career and technical education has changed a lot over the years to incorporate, and ensuring those types of skills are part of the curriculum. So we're mandated to, but even if we weren't, it should be that way. In other words, these are the folks we hope will be hiring our students, especially if we're talking about our local service area. So definitely, and over the years, curriculum changes based upon that in a combination of working with the faculty who write the curriculum.
Wilma Owens, where do you guys come down on that?
Well, Al and I do the same thing. And we have the same mandates, and we work together a lot to develop curriculum. But I can talk about some specifics. About 5 months ago, as I said, at one of these advisory committee meetings, the Regional Paramedic Association said, our paramedics are not trained to respond to incidents like mass shootings at schools. So as a result of that discussion, Palomar is developing one of the first tactical combat casualty care programs in our paramedic programs. So we will be in a position to train all of the paramedics and police officers in the area in tactical combat casualty care. So we just finished writing that curriculum, and it'll be in our catalog this next year.
Oh, interesting. Dr. Operum, incorporating technologies, certain industries into your curriculum, what's going on at Cal State San Marcos?
Yeah. Well, like my colleagues, we do work very closely with our regional business partners to ensure that when we develop a new program or new curriculum, that it is aligned with the regional needs in terms of the coverage that will be in that. Some examples from our side. We have a very successful professional science master's degree in biotechnology. And this is a degree that was developed in close collaboration and consultation with the biotech industry around us. It's been in operation for about 5 years now, very successfully. There are other, and we continue to collaborate with our partners in that to make sure that we stay relevant and current with degrees like that. Education is a good example. It's been, for many years. Our people in the School of Education work very, very closely, obviously, with the school districts all the time. That's a given. But you mentioned more the technical side of things. When we're developing new programs, and one of those on our campus is also a degree in cybersecurity. We had a summit just recently with the industry partners. So we do try to keep in very close touch there and make sure that we're relevant and aligned.
Josh Williams, how do you see these higher education centers incorporating certain technologies?
So it's kind of the lone non-educator up here. When we look at the industry, we tend to try to break it up into kind of major industry clusters, and Carl talked a little about this morning, though. But life sciences and biotechnology, in the last 10 years, it's grown 40% in San Diego County. And this is an area, and the key with that is not only is it's growing a lot, but these are high-paying jobs with large job multipliers, meaning every new life sciences job in San Diego County and North County and Carlsbad generates 2 to 3 to even 5 new jobs in other areas that are supporting it or like that. So these are the industries we look at, information and communication technologies. I mean, we heard about cybersecurity, a little of that, Viasat, and a lot of the work that's going on in telecommunications. This is another driver and really what generates wealth in our community and something that we want to look at. Energy is really changing both locally and nationally in terms of the impact that we're seeing in terms of the solar industry and some of these, renewables, but even the changes in the kind of the fossil fuel industry. So these are all industries that are seeing increasing employment and changing. Our focus, the Carlsbad corridor, has a lot of firms that are really designing and developing new products and some of the stuff in advanced manufacturing. So those are all some of the kind of the industries and technologies that we're looking at when we look at kind of job creation, in our region.
Devin Vodishka, in the high schools, how do you get into that whole incorporating businesses and certain technologies and all that?
Right. So we have a whole range of career technical education courses, going from agriculture to auto shop to culinary. More and more, we're expanding that menu. So we now have courses like virtual enterprise. We have an IT academy. We're doing robotics. As the demands are changing in the workforce, we're trying to expand as well. But we know that not every high school student will have room in their schedule to take some of these courses, and many of them are multi-year pathways articulated with the community colleges. So we're also now working very diligently to expand internship opportunities so that students will have more experiences that may not be a class, but still a meaningful opportunity for learning. And then, broader, we also have options for students. We have Phil here from Trade Tech, which is a charter school that we've authorized, and they focus on construction trades, and they have a great apprenticeship program. So we try to provide a range of options, and I would hope that with high school students, they can have a diversity of experiences to start to identify some of the fields they may enjoy more, where that's a better match for their talents. So that's what we're doing presently.
Thank you. Let's switch gears again. Deborah Bean, professional development, that's certainly a top priority in higher education. What's working? What isn't working? What are you hearing from your staff and faculty?
Well, when in reviewing this question, and there's another one similar to it, we look at professional development really across the board. We look at it in terms of the professional development that we provide for our faculty, and they need to really engage in a couple of different ways. They need to make sure that they're current in their disciplines, so we supply funding for them to be able to go to conferences, present papers, and continue to be engaged. We also have a new Center for Innovation and Learning where they come together, discuss their research and scholarship, and also we provide support for the online offerings and courses that they offer so that they feel confident with the technologies that they use. But in addition to that, when, in thinking about this, and professional development really does reach down into the K through 12 arena, and because we have such a large school of education, we take the notion of providing professional development for teachers who are in the actually pre-K through 12th grade opportunities, not only in their certificate programs and credentialing programs, but beyond that. National University has recently become the home to the Sanford Education Center, and in there are two specific programs that are available to teachers and that we will be having seminars and open houses around. And one is conversation and techniques based on research for being inspiring teachers to inspire others, and that's the Sanford Inspire program. And the other is the Harmony program. And the Harmony program is focused on pre-K through 5th grade and really helping to gap that notion of differences in stereotyping, to make a difference in the classroom by having boys and girls work together in pairs, overcoming gender stereotyping and also other types of stereotyping. And that program is based on research with one of our partner institutions, ASU, and we already have 30 schools signed up and are beginning to use that Harmony program. So we feel that not only the work that we do with our students, but really our involvement and giving back to the community is key, and that's one way that we look at professional development and take it very seriously.
Al Tacone, how do you ensure at your institution that professional development is valuable?
Well, first of all, supporting a extensive and robust professional development program for faculty, staff, and administrators is critical, and I think here at MiraCosta we certainly have those. When we look at from the instructional standpoint, the focus obviously is on, for professional development, is on learning, teaching and learning. It's all about outcomes. It's all about assessing those outcomes. It's all about how we're measured, how success is measured for community college. And our faculty here who develop, or the primary developers of the faculty professional development, focus on best ways to teach based upon how students learn. So a lot of time is spent on, for example, some students learn better online than others. Some have to be face-to-face in the classroom to learn better. Critical thinking skills, reading skills, writing skills, communication skills are all aspects we've talked about here already this morning that are incorporated in whatever it is that we teach so that students can learn and be productive when they move on. And that's where the professional development focuses. There's such a variety of ways of doing that. And from a faculty standpoint, they're teachers. Their faculty. So we look at it as what better way, or who better folks to develop the professional development for faculty than the people who are teaching. As an administrator, we support those efforts, whether it be with time, whether it be with going to seminars or conferences, webinars, and activities that go on here during our typical, what we call the Flex Week time, where it's out of the classroom time to do professional development. So administrative support is critical, but really putting the professional development in the hands of those professionals who do the teaching, because they're also going to have to be the ones who do the assessing and ensuring that our students are prepared when they move on.
Wilma Owens, how do you assure that your professional development opportunities are worthwhile, that things are working the way you want to see them go?
Okay. Well, I can start by saying ditto, but I can add that for community colleges, professional development, again, is primarily focused on faculty, but Administrators and classified staff also have extensive professional development programs. And to show you how seriously we take it, it's a large financial investment for the institution. For instance, we have a full-time faculty of about 300. Every year, 10% of that 300 people, no more than that, because about 16 of the 300 faculty every semester are on sabbatical. That's a full semester sabbatical. That's a significant cost to the institution. Additionally, every full-time faculty member is given 72 hours of professional development per academic year. That's a significant investment for the institution. Our classified staff is given financial incentives to go back to school to complete higher degrees. That's a significant investment. All of our administrators are encouraged and paid to go to conferences, to present papers, to find areas in which they can help do their jobs better. So not only do we say it's important, we put a lot of financial assets towards making sure that our faculty and our staff are supported in doing their jobs. And additionally, we have about 900 part-time faculty. We pay our part-time faculty for professional development hours. We also hire a significant number of working professionals as part-time faculty. We go to our advisory committees and ask those professionals if they could, hone up and get some teaching skills and come to us as a part-time faculty member, because bringing those current workforce practices into the classroom is very important for us.
Gray Mobram, how do you at Cal State San Marcos ascertain whether your professional development is really, you're getting the most bang for the buck, so to speak?
Yeah, well, we have really two dimensions to the professional development that we do, especially with our faculty. We are strongly committed to ensuring that faculty have the resources to get their research done and to be involved in professional organizations related to their research, because ultimately the currency, the relevancy in the classroom is directly tied to that, and also there is the extent to which our students get involved with our faculty in undergraduate research projects in their labs and in other kinds of creative activity and research. So to some extent, we measure the success of the resources that we put into that part of our faculty professional development by virtue of the fact that we see students writing research papers along with our faculty. We hear reports when our students are employed, particularly in some of the more technical industries, that they have some of the skills that the industry might have to provide training for. So yeah, it's hard sometimes to measure directly and to quantify professional development, but we see it in the outcomes that we're looking for. The second dimension is one that's certainly been talked about here before, and that is just related to the pedagogy. We do like to see our faculty keep current with the trends in that, and some of our faculty actually do research in pedagogy in their disciplines as well as their own scientific or other kind of disciplinary research. And we encourage that and we support that. We have a unit on our campus called the Faculty Center. And there are resources there that help faculty get together and work collaboratively, often very in an interdisciplinary way, to think about what they're doing in the classroom and how they might make this better. And one example that has been mentioned already is online learning. Some of the conversations in the Faculty Center about how to ensure the quality of online courses. There's been a lot of discussion about things like that. So it's really these two dimensions that we're strongly committed to. Not only our campus, but the CSU system is committed to putting resources into this. So there are initiatives from our Chancellor's office which help us fund some of these activities, in addition to the funding that we put into it. One other dimension of that, by the way, that I should make mention of here, is that we also have now a program that makes resources available to our faculty for something we call engagement scholarship, which literally helps faculty and their students get involved in the community and do research on that. And we see that as part of the development program for our faculty.
Josh Williams, let's change gears here. Do you think North County could use another 4-year institution?
So another 4-year institution. So I'm going to look at it from the employer perspective. So we can look at it from the supply side. Do we have the students? Do we have the demand? But I would, and I'm going to talk about life sciences a lot because we just finished a big countywide study. But in a time of relatively high unemployment, what we consider a loose labor market, 60% of life science employers are having difficulty finding qualified job applicants. Pretty big number, right? One of the challenges that we're having is if you need to find somebody for a relatively low skill, low wage job, you can find those people pretty quickly. But if you need somebody with a strong academic background, really specific focused technical skills, that takes a while. And I would say, looking at what from employers are saying, and we can talk about employers in life sciences, we can talk about some of the the telecommunications, they're having difficulty. So I would argue yes, particularly given the Carlsbad corridor and the strength of the industry clusters that we have here. Something really targeted towards kind of those higher level, maybe graduate skills, really focused in research or advanced manufacturing or some of the skills. So yeah, I would say yes, and that's really from the demand side. From the supply side, do we have the students to support it? I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe spend some time looking at that. So
interesting. Devin, what your students are looking for options. What do you think? Another 4-year university? Could we use it?
It's an interesting question as well. I think the more choices our students have, generally that's better. I would also say that we have some incredible higher education options that many in our community are not aware of. The more that I've learned about Cal State San Marcos, Palomar, Miracosta, National, there are a lot of strong programs here already. So before I would commit to that, I would want to look at what are the needs and do the existing institutions have the capacity to adjust to meet some of those demands. I do know that I hear from also partners like Qualcomm. They're hiring thousands of employees from abroad because of shortages in particular areas. So I think it would be useful as a community to come together and say, well, where is that demand? How can we use our existing resources to better address those areas? And if we don't have the capacity, then look for maybe bringing in other institutions.
Yeah, Deborah Bean, how do you see that? I mean, could you use the competition, get another school up here?
I have a really specific philosophy, and National does with this. I mean, we see that the state of California is on track, unfortunately, to have by 2025 1 million less baccalaureately qualified graduates than it's going to have. And I think there needs to be lots of opportunities for students, and we want more people to be educated, and the more people that are educated, the better for the state of California and the better for National University. So I don't have any specific data on North County, but we really support the growth of education across the state in every possible way.
Now, Tacona, I understand community colleges can now apply to deliver 4-year degrees. What's Miracosta's view on that?
Got to be careful. I was going to say I thought Miracosta was going to be the new North County. No, I think that bill was passed. Unfortunately, in my opinion, it's very restrictive because we cannot offer any program that the CSU or UCs offer. And to me, this is me speaking, and my thoughts, to alleviate the impaction or the impacted programs at some of our 4-year schools, CSUs and UCs, it seems to me the bill would have better served us if we were allowed to offer programs that are impacted, as opposed to the ones that those 4-year schools are not offering. For example, business, accounting, some of the IT areas, biotech, et cetera. So we are exploring those opportunities and may offer or may take part in the pilot, which means we can offer 1 baccalaureate degree per district. Since we're a single college district, we would be it. But to me, I'm not sure either if another 4-year institution would be viable. I agree with one of my colleagues who said we need to do a little bit more work to see maybe graduate baccalaureate students, but it may not require a brand new university or college to be established in the area. I think working with our partners at, whether it be a private institution like National or the CSUs or the UCs, we certainly could create those opportunities for students. Nursing is another one that was talked about a while ago. It's impacted everywhere, but that's off the table in terms of what we can offer. So I think more dialogue. It's only a pilot program. It may or may not last, but I think it warrants a lot more study and a lot more effort on the part of all of us to see whether or not we are viable in terms of offering baccalaureate degrees. And if another four-year institution is very costly, just from an infrastructure standpoint, unless you did totally online. So if a institution already exists and you can build upon the curriculum slightly or greatly, it seems to me that would be a first and better option than starting from scratch. But that's my opinion.
Wilma Owens, what's your view at Palomar, whether you guys are going to jump into that whole four-year opportunity thing?
Well, I can say that until June 30, I know we will not be jumping into that fray but July 1 we'll have a new president, so who knows what will happen. But as of now, we won't be applying to participate in the pilot. But I look at this, I look at the state as a whole. Right now we have 23 CSUs, we have 8 UCs, and we have 112 community colleges, and that number changes, it seems, monthly. And knowing how our educational system is funded, and we're not none of us are funded at the level we should be funded. So I don't think right now we can afford to have another four-year institution in North County, and I don't think it warrants it. But when you look at the skills gaps and look where people say the gaps are, some of the things that they're talking about are occupations that don't even require a bachelor's degree. For instance, last week I went to a hearing in San Diego. A group of business people in Chula Vista bought a plot of land, and they've been lobbying the state for 20 years to put a CSU in Chula Vista. But when I went to the hearing, they were talking about the need for more qualified welders for the shipyards. Well, welders don't require a bachelor's degree. So why would you be building a CSU because you need more welders? So, and I kind of said that, and they wanted to kick me out of the room, I think. But I think we need to examine what skills we need, determine what level of education and what kind of skills and where people can go and get those skills, partner with institutions who already have that, work with your businesses to determine what skills they need, and develop that curriculum with the assets that you already have.
Graham Obram, Cal State San Marcos, I believe, has, I think your enrollment now is a little over 12,000, if that's not true. Do you have the capacity to grow? Could you expand even more?
Sure. I have to agree with the comments that my colleagues have made already. We certainly do have capacity to grow in many different ways. Clearly, there's budgetary constraints sometimes. But I think the important thing in looking at the workforce needs is not just one of capacity. And I really don't, like my colleagues, I'm not sure that we should be thinking about another four-year institution for a number of different reasons. But is this really a capacity problem, or do we really need to have a careful look at why it is that employers are having to bring people in from abroad, or at least from outside of California in some cases? What can we do to attract more students into the kind of degree programs that are going to be serving the critical needs for the region? Because we certainly, at this point, we're admitting all the qualified students from our region, from our local service area. All the students who are qualified to be in our university are admitted. We have the capacity to serve our region for sure right now. But it is a question of what are those students doing once they come to us, and how do we attract students, and how do we get students interested in, for example, the life sciences or some of these other key areas where we need students to fill some of these positions. I think we should be looking at that end.
When you say looking at that, meaning?
Well, students come up obviously through the K-12 system and make some choices about what they will do once they get to the university level. And I think it's crucial that we try to attract more students into the STEM fields because that's one area that we are hearing about where there's a shortage of skilled and qualified workers. So it's partly a question of how do we get more students to be interested in that.
So sorry to interrupt, I think what I'm saying is the supply side matters, right?
Supply side matters.
The supply
Absolutely.
sides matter. The students that are enrolled, why expand capacity if you don't have the supply to meet that capacity? I think
That's definitely what I'm saying.
Okay.
Josh Williams, another topic here. From the outside looking in, how do these institutions support high-impact teachers? How do they encourage that kind of performance? What should they do? What aren't they doing?
So let me just reiterate. You're talking about how do we identify or support growth in kind of teacher performance and like that. This is obviously is a relevant issue right now in terms of particularly K through 12, right? Mm-hmm. Devin, I feel you'd probably deal with this a little bit, yeah? Yeah, a little bit.
Just a bit.
The research has shown that teachers are what drives student performance, right? More than the school, more than the community. And when I say the community, kind of a lot of those are the factors that in the range. So, I think there is this discussion, standardized testing or not. And I think, to be honest, that's kind of a false choice. I think saying, do we evaluate teachers by their impact on kind of the value added of different standardized testing? I think it needs to be more than that. I think we need to get beyond that we can only evaluate teachers on standardized testing. Is there some value to it? Probably. Everybody else is. When I say everybody else is, schools are, students are, superintendents probably are a little bit as well. So, teachers might want to be in that, but I would say even more importantly, we need to get feedback from principals, from peers. Peer review and teachers, when you talk to teachers, they know what the good teachers are and they need the teachers that need support. And I think developing that kind of internal peer review are all important things that need to be considered.
Yeah, Devin Vodishka, that's your bread and butter. What's weigh in on this one?
Well, I don't sleep much, but one of the things that really keeps me awake at night is looking at the fact that in our district, more than a third of our teachers are 55 or older with 10 years of experience, which means there's a good chance that in the next few years we'll have a lot of retirements. And that's not unusual to Vista. That's pretty standard in the state. There's the boomer bubble, which is getting ready to retire. Right now, we can't fill substitute teacher positions because there's hasn't been very desirable to go into teaching in the past few years with all of the cuts and a lack of opportunities. So talking about supply and demand, I think one of the big issues for education is going to be, are we going to be looking at a teacher shortage in the very near future? And there are some warning signs right now that give me great concern on that topic. So in addition to wanting to support the effectiveness of our current educators and doing a lot to continue to develop their capacity, I think we need to be looking out 3 to 5 years and encouraging talented people to go into teaching because there are likely to be many, many jobs. And when we talk about economic development and employability, Vista Unified is the largest employer in Vista. We have over 1,000 teachers, and that's not unusual in many communities. So the vitality of the community in many ways is tied to that segment of the workforce as well.
Deborah Bean, how do you, at your institution, identify and encourage these high-impact professors?
Well, we, first of all, start by having tremendous respect for them and what they know and really provide them a lot of opportunity to learn and to grow. Really, our professors are the ones that engage with students and facilitate that transformative learning aspect that really is what an institution is all about. So in the last couple of years, we have really provided additional support for our faculty so that they have more time to engage, more time in research. So we've provided additional staff support. I mentioned our Center for Innovation and Learning. We've tripled the size of our support for faculty in terms of wanting to learn more about pedagogy. We come together, next week we're having our 17th annual assessment summit, and that's where all of our program leads get together and talk about how can they improve student learning based on what they know about student learning outcomes. So by making it a priority, by respecting our faculty and also providing them opportunities to learn themselves to improve is how we really feel we build community around that sense of improvement. And once again, it's all about honoring them and the work that they do in the classroom and providing them support.
Al Tacone, I want to ask a different question, and that is, what one major improvement would you advocate to just enhance the quality, enhance the impact of what you're doing here at Maricosa College? What would be a major improvement you'd like to institute?
Do you have to start with me? No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not sure about any significant improvements that we can make without working outside of the college. For example, how our success is measured. I look, for example, at when you talk about faculty and professional development, if you're not in education, it's sometimes hard to realize that important things happen inside the classroom. In other words, when a faculty member is not in the classroom, they're doing many other things that are going to enhance teaching and learning and student success, developing outcomes, assessment, and making sure that we move forward, or students move forward. But how we're measured from a success standpoint, to me, has always been problematic, at least at the community college. We're measured on completers, retention, matriculation, basic skills progress, etc., when we have many success stories that we don't know about. For example, a student might come to a community college, take one class or two classes in basic skills, math, or English, and go on to do wonderful things, and that was their goal. Their goal was not to come to us to get a degree or a certificate. However, that's how we're measured. So if I could change something, and Wilma, I've known Wilma for a lot of years, and I said this probably back in 1998 or so when we first met, and I was at Mesa College at the time, is we need to figure out some way to measure those successes other than the completers and the typical things that the state requires us to report on. So for example, when a student leaves us and goes to get a job and they're successful in a career, it's nearly impossible to track them. We're working on, every year we try to work on ways to do it. It's very costly studies to do. It's very difficult to gather that information. So if there's one thing I could change, I'm not sure I'd change anything internally because I think we strive for all of what we're talking about today, but I wish I could have a greater impact on those who measure our success. In other words, realize every student is different. They learn differently. For example, Wilma mentioned welding, which was a perfect example of how we could have students or individuals going into very successful careers without completing even a degree or necessarily a certificate. They learned from non-credit, they learned from not for credit, they learned from credit programs, and we need to figure out how best to measure whether or not we're successful in that. I would venture to guess, and it's just strictly a guess, of the percentage of students who come to us and don't complete a degree or certificate, there's got to be a percentage that go on to be successes doing something. And that's, to me, the difficulty is getting that information, and then even if I had it, I'm not sure those who measure us would give it a lot of stock.
Well, Wilma, let's assume you're president of your college. What are you going to change? What's the one? What's the one measure you would take to shake things up, change things around a little bit?
Yeah, not surprisingly, Al and I agree on that, and we've talked about it for 20 years or so. About it's the external things that would make a bigger difference. how people outside of our institutions look at us and measure our successes. Typical, well, an example I can give, we have a very large CAD program, architectural drafting and drafting, mechanical drafting, or architectural and drafting programs. And I was doing an evaluation of the instructor, and I was talking to the students, and I asked them about their education levels. About 45% of them already had a bachelor's degree. So my question was, why are you here? Well, I'm an engineer, but I don't know CAD. I need to learn SolidWorks, so I'm in this class. Well, for the community college, that student is not a success. You know, here's a successful engineer who's taking one class because he needs that skill at work. But for us, it's not measured as a success. The other thing, and I'd like to go back to the K-12 system for a minute, because that's where I started my career in education. Teachers in our society in general, I think, get a real bum rap. You know, people come in and they do a standardized test to measure the success of, you know, to measure what's happening in your classroom. And if it's not well, the teacher gets the blame for that. But as a classroom teacher, you know, there are so many things that you don't have control of. You know, what's happening in your student's life the day they take the test, what's happening in your student's lives, period. You know, even in community college, a lot of our students are homeless. You know, they're struggling, but those struggles aren't entered into the equation of their successes. A lot of our students are just kicked out of the foster system because they're 18 and have been kicked out, and they're struggling to try and make something of their lives. A lot of the students in the K-12 system, when I was teaching even, you know, many years ago, were dealing with issues that were incomprehensible. But if they didn't do well on a standardized test, the teacher got the blame for that failure. But we need to find ways to help with those situations for our teachers. Because the teacher can't, you know, the teacher has the student for 8 hours a day. What happens with the other hours of that child's life? And that's where we need to put a little more focus, I think.
Graham Obram, you're now the chancellor of CSU San Marcos. Give us one bold move that's going to transform everything.
Well, one bold move. I'd like to think we often take bold steps to help try to transform things. I've already talked about things that we do to help our faculty be successful in the classroom and in what they do. But one thing that really concerns me is that, are we doing enough with our students? I would want to take some bold steps and continue to do that. In fact, just in the past year, I took the bold step of creating an Office of Undergraduate Studies and appointing a Dean of Undergraduate Studies on our campus. And that is specifically an office that is designed to work on the problem of student success. What different kinds of things from many dimensions and from many different angles can we be doing to help make our students successful in their careers as college students and of course beyond? So that's certainly one thing that I would do. I do think there's the other. I'm with Devin on this. I really do worry about the fact that we need to be preparing teachers who are just stellar and put them out in K-12, because it's so often tempting to think of ourselves in isolation of the K-12 system. You know, we're in higher education, we have our problems, but we all have our problems. So that question of how do we identify the really the best students and make sure that they end up in the K-12 so that we can get more of the same, and it can be something that then proliferates and would benefit everyone. So that's another area where I would like to be I'd like to see what bold steps we can take, and maybe together. And one of the things that our campus does in that area to try to help with that channel that's going from K-12 through to our campus is we have MOUs with many of the school districts around, including with Devon's district, to ensure that students are getting the right kind of preparation before they come to college to help them be successful in college. But we're also guaranteeing them admission. And there we do have hard data that shows that that's a very successful program. So.
Well, thank you very much. And we have a few minutes left. I'd like to invite members of the audience to ask a few questions. We've got about 10 minutes or so, a little bit. Yes, sir. We've got a gentleman in the back there.
Well, my name is Bob Weisberg, and I'm a candidate for the Oceanside Unified School District. So obviously, I'm very concerned about this topic. We have Common Core being implemented, but the panel hasn't discussed that. And in the sense that we have students that graduate and got a diploma, and they've been accepted by the various community colleges and four-year colleges, they have to go through remediation. So how would you advise or recommend the various school districts to take advantage of Common Core to enhance their ability to graduate students that do not have to go through remediation?
Who wants to tackle that?
So I'll add a little data to it. I think the problem is Kentucky stepped out in this about 4 years ago. So they're ahead of the curve in terms of they've been implementing Common Core for 4 years. And they've looked at that exact issue in the last, from 2011 to 2015, the percentage of students that didn't need remediation went from, improved from 38% to 62%. So all I would say is there are some data recently, at least at the statewide level, shows that Common Core is doing exactly that. But it's not going to happen overnight. And I think part of the problem is it's a very political issue. When everything's a political issue, it's got to happen tomorrow, right? It's not going to happen tomorrow. So I think all we can say is we need to have some patience. Anything in education done right doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think look at Kentucky, look at those numbers, look at that data, and use that maybe as a potential example of what can happen.
Thank you. We've got a question from a young lady right there.
I'm Sheena Gross with United Way, and I actually saw a presentation on the research you were talking about yesterday, so I had pulled out my life sciences thing.
Trying to remember that.
There were two points that were brought up. One was about Common Core and how it actually can be very helpful for those essential skills that you were talking about, the critical thinking, so I was just curious what the group thought about that. And the second issue, specifically in life sciences, they talked about, yes, it's about education, but there's also employers are really looking for that work experience, and you can have all the education there, but not the work experience. So I was wondering, one of the panel members could talk about the internships, the apprentices, how you're putting that into the coursework.
Yes, Al, go ahead.
Regarding the Common Core, I've seen some of the research as well. It is going to take some time. How long, we don't know. But I think working with, at least with local high schools, the hope is too, and I've met with some of the faculty, the math faculty at El Camino High School, and we've talked about making the education meaningful too. So I think the more that the students can connect with the importance of math and English when they move on, maybe applications, those sort of things, so that they understand that when they go on, it is going to have an impact. It's not like they're taking algebra just because they have to take it. It is going to have an impact on what they do and what they pursue in their future. Regarding the internships and the work experience, I think Wilma can speak to this as well. Community colleges usually have quite extensive work experience and internship programs. We do here at Miracosta for sure. And virtually every program we offer has an internship opportunity. And we have a department and an area of the college dedicated to that. I see our director, Nina, who's right back there, so giving her a plug. And we certainly encourage those students who are looking to go directly into careers to participate in internships, because that's the best way, based upon what they have available in terms of time, effort, and energy with going to school full or part-time, to explore those opportunities. So we connect our students with that program, and we have our faculty who actually mentor the students in both work experience and internship. So it's a great question. It's not required of every program, but certainly if a student comes to me with that same question about how do I get experience to put on my resume, pretty much if you're in school and you're trying to get through a program of study, that's the best way to go about it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Sunny Goodwin. I own Sunny Day Tutoring Services. I also sit on the board for the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce. My concern is what are we doing and what are your ideas to help with actual vocational training? When I was young, I've been a teacher for 46 years, there were voc ed classes in the high schools. You could actually become a car mechanic, a computer repair person, et cetera, and the high schools were helping prepare students to be able to go directly to a good skill type career. All of that has been thrown away. We do not, our ROP classes, I'm concerned I don't see those. I work with students every day that are not college material in the sense that they don't want to go to school beyond high school. What programs can you envision that we can put in place that can actually help students become really career ready after 12 years or even after 1 year in the junior college for those kids who just are not students, if you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Wilma, you're laughing there. Jump in.
You had your hand up, Wilma.
Where to start? Those programs, I'm not sure where you're looking, but those programs are still there. They're still there in the K-12 system, and they're certainly there. That's my whole job, of working with career technical.
Funds for Oceanside Unified were held up by the county this year, and their number of ROP classes that they can offer is down.
But ROP was a funding source. It's not the program. The career technical programs are still in the K-12 system, and I know that because many of them are articulated with programs at the community college. And my whole job is working with career technical education. We have a huge apprenticeship program. We have apprenticeships in every area of the trades that you can think of. We have over 1,500 students enrolled in apprenticeship programs. We have,
That's at Miracosta.
No, I'm at Palomar. And also we work with all of the K-12 schools in our district. Vista is one of them, to articulate their programs with ours. So I'm not sure where you're looking, but those programs are still there.
Go to a college.
But,
And that's not going to happen.
I would say right now is a great opportunity as we transition into the local control funding era. We move away from ROP as a very restricted program. School districts are receiving, K-12 districts, an augmentation for students in high school to build career technical education programs. And we have great flexibility in terms of how we go about doing that. There's a little bit of a transition challenge, as you mentioned, with the funding that was going through the county is slowly coming to school districts. But I think in the next few years, we'll have great opportunities to redesign K-12 CTE pathways with a lot of flexibility, a lot of autonomy. And if we do it well, they're going to be better and stronger than they have been even with the former ROP model.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody on the panel and all of you for attending today's forum. And we'd like to invite the interim superintendent and president of Miracosta College, Dick Robertson, to come up and give us a few closing remarks.
On behalf of Miracosta College and its Board of Trustees, faculty, staff, and students, we are glad that you had this opportunity to be at this wonderful venue for this very important program dealing with education. I want to do a shout out to two of our board members who got up very early this morning to be here and to listen to this forum on education. Our board president, Dr. David Broad, and Trustee George McNeil. This is just one of many ways Miracosta is celebrating 80 years of serving North County. We are proud of what this institution has done. We are very committed to career technical education. a community college, and I am a born-again community college person. I graduated from a liberal arts college. I attended a major university and found a community college job, and then got this transformative experience. It is an amazing place to work. We try to serve all parts of the educational spectrum. There's a lot of demand on community colleges right now. The state is saying, make them succeed in rapid succession. Get them in, get them out. That doesn't always work. So MiraCosta still maintains a commitment to access for students as well as success for students. We do amazing things here. Not everyone is going to finish an educational experience in 12 months or in a year or in 2 years. We provide opportunities for people who couldn't get education because they raised a family, because they went to work, because they took care of family members. They now can work their way through at their own pace and be successful and move into either certificate or degree programs. We had this year a record number of graduates. Over 2,000 students received certificates or diplomas. And while I do understand the point from the Oceanside Chamber person, yes, there are people who do not want to come and pursue higher education. I get that. And we're working very closely with Oceanside Unified, Carlsbad, San Diego Union districts to try to make sure that students are prepared for whatever they decide to do after high school. Our bias, obviously, is we would like them to attend a college or a university. We are opening in Carlsbad an exciting new venture in February this year. The Technology Career Institute and our wonderful Community Services Director, Linda Kurakawa, who has worked so hard to make that happen, is present this morning. We are looking at every opportunity, credit and non-credit, to prepare people for the workforce. We're in a military community. We welcome military people, and they're coming to us in droves. We will, in about 2 weeks, dedicate a new facility for veterans on this campus. That is a tangible commitment to the military community. But we also are offering programs, both credit and non-credit, to help people who are transitioning out of the military into lives as civilians. And many of them come to us having been prepared to do things that involve weapons and fighting, and we're trying to help them transition to a different environment. MiraCosta is proud of its CTE programs. You got the benefit today of hearing from Dr. Al Tacone, who is a champion for career and technical education. He is brilliant. He knows what has to be done. He's helping our community get ready for students who are well prepared. I got a tour of the auto technology program. It's astounding what's happening in auto technology. And those students coming to us and they're filling our classes are moving into jobs. So my encouragement to you today is keep driving your vehicles badly so that they will have to be repaired
We need cars.
by our very well prepared graduates. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for listening to what these wonderful people have to say.
Thank you, Wilma. Very great seeing you. We'll get back in the war room there. Down at Mesa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice
Big thank you
meeting
to
you.
our
Thank you for
sponsors, our
hosting us.
panelists,
I'd have
and
a lot to do with it.
thank you for getting up and coming out and talking about this wonderful topic. And you'll hear more from us in the future.